Okay, this one's kind of long. It says, "Am I the asshole for not liking Indian food?" Okay.
Off of that line, I'm gonna say no. But please tell us more.
You don't like Indian food?
It's cool.
I like Indian food sometimes. I ate,
Well,
I ate a
yeah,
lot of Indian food as a kid because my parents, like, their good friends were Indian. So, like, every event was Indian food and we just had a lot of it. So now as an adult, I can't really, like, I can't eat it a lot.
I totally understand. That's me with Spanish food.
Yeah.
I got a strict once a month Spanish food rule,
Hmm.
or less. But anyway, I do like Indian food. But Indian food has a lot of spice. Um, and sometimes, and also when you're not used to eating that type of stuff, your body sometimes rejects that stuff.
Oh, it will tear your stomach up.
So you have to be ready
Yep.
for the aftermath, you know, because you might need to be somewhere where you are able to release those demons.
Now, what I will say is, all the fellas you were just talking to, if that's the way you're gonna apologize, don't have Indian food beforehand.
No one should have Indian food before the apology.
Yeah, no.
And if you did, you might want to wait 24 to 72 hours before you properly
Take a nice good shower.
a couple of them.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I actually didn't think about that when I read this. We'll get there. Okay. This one's kind of long. I'm trying to read them fast. I know we probably don't have time for the third one, but we'll do this one quick. Okay. My 30, huh? Oh, I'm a 30-year-old male. Girlfriend is 27, 27-year-old female. Um, she's Indian. She moved to US a few years back. I'm American, white if that matters. We live in North Carolina. My girlfriend loves to cook. She told me so on our first date. However, I'm not the biggest fan of Indian food. I find that a lot of spices used in Indian food irritate my stomach, and I have a very low tolerance for hot or spicy food.
Mm.
She Sorry about the sounds. Um
I didn't hear anything.
oh.
Maybe because I'm true.
She never had an issue with this and never forced me to eat anything I didn't want to. In fact, whenever I stayed over, she made me things like pancakes and French toast, and they were incredible. She is a very good cook. A word of advice: don't judge a person on their pancakes or waffles. Low hanging fruit. Anyway,
That's me.
it's not. It's okay.
Everybody got their specialty. Maybe she's really good at breakfast.
I'm not saying anything like that. I'm just saying that that doesn't. Pancakes and waffles don't make you a good cook. That's my only point. Her pancakes and waffles are probably incredible. That doesn't mean that she could like cook a meal. Does it? All right, when you done. 2 weeks ago, we moved in together. Our place has a large, fully equipped kitchen, and my girlfriend was ecstatic about all the things she can do. I was happy to see her so happy. However, in all our excitement, I didn't realize how our food preferences can actually become a problem. You see, I didn't realize that she cooks and eats a lot of Indian food, like all the time. For the past year, whenever we've spent time at each other's apartments, she's always made me things like ramen, pasta, lasagna, tacos, soups, grilled cheese, etc. That's, I think, where he cleared up that she can cook.
Right.
Um, I figured that that's what she normally ate. I have a few Indian American friends, and they've told me they don't exclusively eat Indian food at home, so I thought it was the same thing with her. Yesterday, she was super excited to show me something and dragged me to the kitchen. There, she unveiled a whole drawer of spices. We're talking 20 to 30 different types of whole slash crushed slash powdered spices, neatly stored in glass bottles and labels. I asked why she needed so many spices, and she replied, to cook Indian food, silly.
Duh.
I told her that I didn't like Indian food, and she told me not to worry. She wouldn't force me to eat anything. That it's just for her meals, and that she'd make separate meals for me. I asked her if she could simply not cook Indian food at all in our house because the smell is so pungent, and if she'd cook regular food instead. She told me
Out of
that
line. Completely out of line.
She told me that Indian food is regular food for her, and I'm going to have to get used to it. I insisted, and she said that she'll only consider giving up cooking Indian food if I give up cooking meat at home because she's a vegetarian, because she doesn't like the smell of meat being cooked. I told her that it was unfair. It was an unfair ask because she never objected when I cooked with meat at my apartment. She told me that she's only demanding that I give it up because I'm doing the same thing to her. I got quite mad and told her she was being extremely unreasonable as I need meat, I work out a lot, and I need the protein. But she doesn't need to eat Indian food all the time and can order takeout if she craves it. She told me that restaurants are not very good where we live and that it's unhealthy to eat takeout every day. We ended up arguing for a while and now we're not talking to each other. Am I the asshole for insisting that she doesn't cook with spices?
Yes. You white bland food eating motherfucker. First of all, y'all should not be together.
No.
Second of all, you clearly have communication issues once again. Because I don't know how the hell you moved in together without ever discussing any of this at all. Like, honestly, there is mad shit that they did not discuss, and that is a problem. And that is a reoccurring problem because people don't communicate. And today, people move in after 2 weeks. And for the internet, I'm being sarcastic. I don't literally mean 2 weeks because I know y'all motherfuckers would be in the comments saying, no one moves in after only 2 weeks.
I just don't, excuse me, I just don't understand why it is that, why you would think, I don't think it warrants, I don't think it warranted a conversation for her to declare that she was going to make Indian food when they lived together.
Oh, yeah, he's a bozo. I mean, listen,
I just,
you started this by saying she just moved here. What do you think a person who just moved here from another country is going to eat? The food that is from the place they're from? Duh.
it just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, in what world did you think that you would live with someone who was culturally different from you and that their culture wouldn't be a part of their everyday life?
Because the colonizers often think
Well, yeah,
that because they don't have culture, that the rest of us will just adapt to their lack of culture.
right.
When I'm sure, and this is the ironic part for me, and I don't mean to sound like Dr. Umar or nothing up here, but this is the ironic part for me. Let's be real. Part of the reason you like this woman is because she is quote unquote exotic, quote unquote foreign. Because there's a bit of fetishizing going on here.
Mm-hmm.
Fetishizing? You
Fetishizing.
know what I mean. Fetishizing going on here. You like that there's some forbidden fruit available to you now.
Oh,
And so there are things that come along with that.
right.
And so you cannot simply assume, sir, that this woman is going to rid herself of everything she knows
No.
for the 27 years that she's been on this planet to adapt to spiceless meat and, dare I say, subpar food.
Well, but also to go beyond that, you like her because she's someone who cooks regularly. She's
Right.
someone who has that sort of personality. Look at what she said. I don't need you to eat my food. I will cook different food for you. She's not even saying fed. Some women would walk into that situation saying, "This is what I'm cooking, and you got to figure out what you want to eat if you don't want to eat this."
Absolutely.
She said,
A
"I will
queen who
cook two
deserves better.
separate meals."
A queen who deserves better. A queen, listen,
As a as a
she's
woman
a,
who grew up in a
you're a little
household,
young, but if you need an older friend to talk to,
all right.
you know,
As a woman who grew up in a,
at, at cherry eggplants, at cherry eggplants.
you done or you finished?
I'm finished and I'm done.
As a woman who grew up in a household where this was like a thing, my dad became a vegetarian. I don't know. One day he just came home and was like, I don't want to eat
I'm
meat
done.
anymore.
It'd be like that. I did the same thing.
And the rest of us, the four of us, still ate meat. And my mom just pivoted. My mom was like, okay, well, you don't eat meat anymore. So I guess I've got to make he's pescatarian. So she'd be like, I gotta make fish or veggies, fish and or veggies
Right,
for you, and then I gotta make whatever meat dishes for them,
right.
for us.
And
So
that, by the way, I would like to just interject and say that's an awesome thing that a person is doing because they care. This woman and your mother, neither of them had to do that.
right, and that was where what I was getting to. I think that it's a very caring thing. I think it also speaks to probably her nurturing nature, where she's just like, I just want to take care of you in the way that I know how. And just even thinking about Indian culture and thinking about the culture around food, it is very much about sharing, and like there's a lot of love that is associated with it, and a lot of passion in making the food. And so, sir, sir, let her make her food. Let her make her food. If you don't like it, there are candles you could buy that will kill the smell. Put out a bowl of vinegar in the kitchen when she's done cooking. There's so many things you could do. If you love this woman, if you care about this woman, why what are we talking about right now? Now y'all
Um,
can't be together because she's gonna cook Indian food in the home that you guys are living in together. And how did you think that this was not going to happen?
because he's greedy and selfish. That's why.
Right. This is so selfish.
Absolutely.
This is so selfish. I don't understand. You have to be able to at the very least compromise. And I could
Absolutely.
I couldn't help but think to myself, wait a minute. So she's vegetarian, and when she cooks for him, she cooks meat for him. I assume that's what it is. That
Absolutely.
was that was
You
implied.
mentioned lasagna and other things. Yeah.
Right. It was implied that she cooks meat for him, and she can't cook her Indian food because the spice is gonna bother you. So which one is it? It hurts your stomach, or you just don't like it. You just don't want to be around it. Because
The problem,
that's xenophobic as fuck.
and the problem is, in all relationships, there needs to be communication and compromise.
Yeah.
Clearly, you two are in opposing views and stances on this matter,
Hmm.
and that's fine. But this is why you have to have important conversations before A, committing to relationships, B, taking leaps and bounds and moving in together.
Yeah. Yeah. I just don't. I just don't even. I don't know how they got to the point of moving in together. And the reason I say that is because if this is his stance on this, you're telling me that there were no signs. I can't imagine that there were no signs that this person was inflexible before you moved in together.
But that's why I made the 2 week sarcastic comment because they probably were not together very long.
Maybe not, But I think
Food is an
it,
important topic. People talk a lot about food, especially today where it's all on social media.
yeah,
You're sharing restaurants. Ooh, babe, look, I saw this one. Oh man, I saved it. We should go here on Saturday. After we go to Dave and Buster's, this is where we should go to eat.
yeah.
You know,
No, I agree. I think that food comes up. I mean, it's the one of the things that we do to sustain. So it's constantly happening. We're constantly eating. It's kind of hard to avoid conversations about food, but he made it very clear that they've had conversations about food. But you can't say I don't like something, and I don't like something translates into you can't like it either.
right. And I want to say also, even him quoting that he has, referencing that he has other Indian American friends, well, then you didn't, it don't sound like you connected with them on a deeper level because then they would have told you, oh, she's about to make mad Indian food. That's number one. Which number two, I think is just common sense. But number three, I will also like to say there's a difference between Indian American friends and a woman who just moved here.
Exactly.
Like, I I know people who are of quote unquote Hispanic descent and lived here their whole lives.
Hmm.
Those people are extremely different than a Hispanic person who just got here.
Hmm. Yeah.
They're totally different in so many instances in food, in culture, in the way they speak. It's so many different things that just are not going to connect because of the fact that you've had mad time here versus the person who just got here.
No, I agree. I agree. I always used to think my mom was the most Guyanese woman I knew. Just because.
Until
Until my grandfather's wife would come and come to stay with us for like months at a time. And then I'd be like, oh, okay. It is different. It is different because because she is actually, well, she was actually immersed in the culture every single day. My
of
mother had been
course,
here for however many years and has assimilated, and while she's still very much deeply involved in her culture, it's it's different. It's
absolutely.
different because America makes it so that you have to adapt. You can try to resist adapting, but but this country makes it so that you have to adjust to the way of life that exists here. And honestly, he is a good example of that. Where it's like, well, you're here now, so you got to do what I do and forget about what it is that's culturally important to you.
Yep.
And I say, fuck him.
And
Leave him.
that's why I use the term colonizer.
Yeah,
Because
leave
this
him.
doesn't sound like a guy who is, yes, he is a white guy, but it doesn't sound like a white guy who is accepting of her and her culture.
Right.
It doesn't sound like someone who wants to understand her and her culture, which is also part of being together, in my opinion.
Yeah,
When you're with someone
of
of
course.
another culture, part of that is getting to know their culture because that's something that you're going to be around long term if you're trying to be with this person. Example, you saying that you can't be around Indian food even being cooked, brother. How you think you're gonna operate? Because you're gonna be at family functions. What you think they're gonna be doing at the family function?
What if y'all have children? God forbid.
And that's the next step. What do you think is gonna happen? But I'm just saying, even if you just like, hey, we're going to my mom's house on Sunday. We're gonna spend the day there. What do you think the day there is gonna be? Part of that is getting to know the other side of the things.
Yeah.
Especially when you're dating someone whose culture is totally different than yours. You
Yeah.
know, even a lot of us talk about how growing up we have different experiences, even though we're all brown skin or we're all some kind of melanated. Um, you know, in this culture, we all have grown up different experiences growing up, right? If
Mhm.
you might be black appearing, but grew up in a predominantly Spanish household, or you might be, you know, uh oh, I don't know if it's recording.
It looks like
Oh,
it.
yeah, it said it was trying to connect to my internet.
Mm.
My point is, you can have different experiences growing up when you leave your house and go to someone else's
Mhm.
house, even who is a melanated person. Sometimes that other person's house is a totally different experience.
Yeah.
So imagine the culture shock of the person who grew up as an American white person going to be with a person who just got here from another country. It doesn't even matter what country they came from,
Of course.
just
Yeah.
another country, even if it was another white country. It could be someone who just got here from Ireland or Italy,
Yeah. The experiences, their
Sweden,
experience would still be
Egypt,
different.
whatever. Yeah, it's still going to be that you have to understand two things. One, this person is adapting to everything that's going on in America. They were an adult when they got here, and
Hmm.
they are trying to adapt and conform to this new society and new living experience. Number two is, as the person dating this person who just got here, you got to understand that they are still very tied to that culture. That's the anchor in which, bless you,
Thank you.
that's the anchor that they have. That's part of their core belief system
Right.
and just
Exactly.
life experience. So you got to understand, they don't really understand this.
Their
And that's
worldview
culture
is
too,
completely
because
different.
right. So even and that ties back to even growing up here. Like, you could grow up in a predominantly Spanish household, for example, and then go meet somebody who's Indian. Same, almost the same thing. You could be Spanish American, Black American, whatever. You meet this other person, their living experience is totally different than yours. You know what I'm saying? Like, even just having friends, I talk to friends and I'm like, yeah, growing up XYZ, and they're like, oh yeah, that wasn't allowed in my house. Like, all right, when I tell people hip hop was not allowed in my house,
Mhm.
people always are like, what does that mean? What would happen if hip hop came on? It's like mind blowing to people.
Yeah.
So, and I grew up here. And not like I grew up in
Right.
Guatemala. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. But in my quote unquote Spanish household, hip hop wasn't allowed. It was the enemy. It was not okay. And I know you probably don't understand that if you see me today and know how I operate as somebody who doesn't know me. But when you meet somebody who's like, oh, I'm Puerto Rican, but in my house we all was listening to hip hop all the time. We was blasting Big
Mhm.
Pun the moment we woke up on the weekends. Totally different cultural experiences, totally different lived experiences. So that amplifies when it's someone who is not from the country and is coming here with an entire lived experience as an adult
Right.
from another country. Part of saying I'm going to be with this person
It's accepting
is one,
culture.
right. You got to be willing to understand
Mhm.
what they're going through, have empathy for what they're going through, and be willing to immerse yourself in their culture. I don't understand how you don't do that with somebody you're with, period. Because part of getting to know
Exactly.
someone and saying we're going to be a couple is getting to know the things they're into, the things that they grew up with. All of that cultural lived experience is part of what you learn and envelop yourself in when you get to know this person.
Because that is that person's foundation. That is everything. The way they see the world is through that lens. And
Right.
if you if you commit to learning about that, you'll understand them better. You'll be able to communicate with them better. You probably have a much more successful relationship if you actually take the time to understand where this person is coming from, what what their values are, and what their culture is and what that means to them. It means something different to everyone.
Yep.
How does it impact them? It could be food, it could be work ethic, it could be the way they want to raise children. It's their entire worldview that is uh, off of the basis of this this life that they've had. It doesn't mean that they are not open to your culture or
Right.
what your worldview is, but it means that they have a different perspective.
Yep.
And sometimes that's important for two people to come together and share their perspectives and be able to see it from the other side. And you'd find better compromise. You'd find common ground. You'd find the middle way. If that is a relationship that you really want to be in, you find
Right.
that middle ground. But you can't find it if you are so closed off to what that person, who that person is, where that person comes from, and why that person does what they do, or behaves the way they behave, or believes what they believe. Like, it's just,
Yeah.
it's so mind blowing to me. And at the surface, like when you read the comments to some of these things, to some people it's just food, but it's like when you really think about it, it's
Yes,
so
right.
much more than food.
Yeah, I agree.
So, well, that was a really interesting conversation.
Yeah.
Uh,
Fuck him and his bland food.
yeah, yeah, and you got to eat food too.
Yeah, and it wasn't bland. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Anyway, we'll save the third one for another day. But this was fun. This was fun. We gotta do this another time.
Yeah.
Hope
Another
people
time when
have
I'm here, when I'm only here, so I won't be fine.
right.